Let's be honest. If you're 50 or older and watching this video, you're simmering with a very specific feeling. It's not just work fatigue or a midlife crisis. It's the cold, sticky dread that wakes you up at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling. You did everything right. You studied, you worked 40, 50, and sometimes 60 hours a week. You paid your taxes, invested in your $401,000, and believed in the system. You were promised golf, travel, and a peaceful retirement at the end of this journey. But now, looking at the numbers in your banking app and the price tags at the supermarket, you're starting to realize you've been duped. Welcome to the reality that Wall Street financial advisors don't tell you. 50 isn't the new 30. In the world of money, 50 is the point of no return. It's the moment when any mistake you make becomes fatal because you no longer have your most important asset, time. If you make a mistake now, you won't have another 20 years to ride out the market cycle. For most American men, the retirement system has become a giant financial meat grinder. And today, I'm going to show you the code of this matrix. I'll show you why your retirement plan is likely a beautiful illusion and the exact mistake you're making right now, destroying your future. Let's start with the biggest myth, the myth of safe passive investing. For 30 years, the concept of diversification has been drummed into your head. You've been told, just buy index funds and don't touch anything else. But here's the secret your broker will never tell you. This strategy was designed for a world that no longer exists. We live in an era of hidden inflation, which eats away at your savings faster than you can replenish them. If your retirement account grows at 7% per year, while real inflation on healthcare, insurance, and quality food is 12%, you're not getting rich. You're slowly getting poorer in real time, the numbers in your account just getting a little higher to keep you from panicking prematurely. The first and most terrifying trap for a man in his 50s is the fake equity trap. Most of you consider your home your greatest asset. You look at the Zillow appraisal and think, okay, I have $500,000 in equity. But that's a dangerous illusion. Your home doesn't pay you a salary. It costs you property taxes. It costs you insurance, which in some states has increased by 100% in the last 2 years, and it requires constant repairs. The second you retire, your home turns from an asset into a liability, sucking up your cash flow at an incredible rate. Mistake number 1, basing your retirement plan on the value of the bricks and mortar you live in. If you can't turn that equity into a stream of real, tangible cash, you're effectively homeless with a very expensive address you can't afford to maintain. Now, let's unpack the mechanics of the banking system. Why are banks so insistent on offering you personal managers right now? Because the bank understands your psychology better than you do. At 50, a man subconsciously becomes conservative. Testosterone levels drop and the need for security increases. And the bank exploits this fear to offer you products with guaranteed returns, or annuities. Remember that word, annuities. They're a favorite tool of financial advisors because they earn such huge commissions for selling them that they could buy themselves a new car with just one transaction from you. The bank tells you, give us your savings and we'll pay you a fixed amount for the rest of your life. Sounds like stress relief? But in reality, you're giving the bank control over your liquidity in exchange for payments that inflation will reduce to pennies in 10 years. You're literally buying yourself the right to guaranteed poverty under the bank's watchful eye. This is the very mistake that ruins lives. Trading real control for the illusion of protection. The next level of this trap is the cult of the credit score. You've been told your whole life that a high FICO score is the key to success. But ask yourself, why do you need a perfect credit score at 55? To take out another loan for a Tesla? To get into more debt? The system wants you to remain a perfect borrower until your death. They want you to keep paying interest even when your hair turns gray. True financial freedom at this age begins not with a high score, but when you stop caring what the bank thinks of you because you're debt-free. But the biggest tragedy is happening in the realm of taxes. Most men in America keep their main savings in traditional retirement plans. You look at your screen and see, say, $1 million. But that's not your million. That's $1 million divided between you and the United States government. The second you start taking that money out to live on, Uncle Sam will come for his share. And if tax rates rise in 10 years, and they inevitably will, given the $34 trillion budget deficit, you'll find your million has turned into $600,000. You haven't accounted for the biggest risk of all. The risk that the government might change the rules of the game midway through the fourth quarter. You're playing chess with an opponent who might just flip the board just when you're starting to win. It's at age 50 that you must realize the time for accumulation is over. It's time for protection and aggressive optimization. If you continue to do the same things you did in your 30s, you're committing financial suicide. At 30, you could let the market fall 40% and simply wait for a 10-year recovery. At 55, a market crash a couple of years before you plan to retire is a catastrophe from which you never recover. This is called sequence of returns risk, and it's what destroys the retirement plans of 90% of Americans. But there's another hole in your ship that no one warns you about. It's social pressure. At 50, you're at the peak of your career, and the environment demands you live up to that status. New cars, expensive vacations, helping adult children who can't seem to move out of your house. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's poison. You spend money maintaining the facade of success while the foundation of your future rots. Many men at this age become ATM machines for their families, forgetting that they themselves don't have a retirement fund to bail them out if they get sick. Speaking of illnesses, your health insurance is the greatest financial trap in U.S. history. Think Medicare will solve all your problems? Ask anyone who's 75 now. Healthcare is the fastest growing expense, capable of blowing $1 million bill in just a few months of serious treatment. And if you haven't created a structure that protects your assets from medical debt collection, you're building a castle on sand. Banks and insurance companies are just waiting for you to become vulnerable so they can take away what you've saved over decades. Let's dig deeper, because we're now approaching the most dangerous part of the road. At 50, most men fall into what I call the savior syndrome. You feel obligated to pay for your children's college education, help them with a down payment on a house, or bail them out of credit card debt. It sounds noble, but in the 21st century American reality, it often translates into collective financial suicide. Remember this hard truth. You can borrow for education, but not for retirement. If you empty your accounts now to make life easier for your 30-year-old children, you're not just depriving yourself of a future. You're setting up a scenario where, in 15 years, they'll have to support you because you're broke. This is the trap of false responsibility that banks love because it keeps your entire family on a debt roller coaster. But let's get back to the mechanics of your savings. Have you heard of target date funds? Those are the ones your employer offers by default. They tell you, just pick the year you turn 65, and the fund will do the rest. It sounds like the perfect solution for a busy person. But here's the fine print hidden in the 100-page prospectus. These funds are often loaded with hidden fees and invest in assets that benefit the bank, not you. Furthermore, when a crisis hits, these funds don't protect you the way you think. They simply follow an algorithm that can burn through a quarter of your capital a week before your anniversary. You've entrusted your fate to a robot whose only job is to maximize the management company's profits, not to provide you with a dignified retirement. Now, let's talk about what happens once you've finally saved up your first million or two. It seems like you've won, but this is where the accredited investor trap snaps shut. In the US, there's a law that says, if you have a lot of money, we'll let you invest in risky private funds. Bankers start inviting you to private dinners and pitching you on private equity or commercial real estate investment. They exploit your desire to feel part of the elite. But in reality, they often use your capital as exit liquidity for their truly large clients. You enter the deal at the highest price, take on enormous risk, and lock up your money for 10 years with no way to take it out. At 55, liquidity is your oxygen. Locking up money in dubious projects just to show off to your friends at the country club is the quickest path to disaster. And here we come to the most cynical aspect of the matrix: how the system uses your biology against you. In our 50s, we start thinking more about legacy. We want to leave something behind. Banks are quick to offer you complex insurance products for estate planning. They talk about inheritance tax protection, but in most cases, they're simply selling you expensive life insurance you don't need. They force you to pay huge premiums now, taking away cash that could be working toward your current income. The system wants you to live poor so you can die rich, while the bank profits from your premiums for decades to come. You know what else sucks the life out of you? Blindly following the advice of talking heads on TV. All those financial shows are designed to force you to trade. Banks need you to constantly buy and sell. Every transaction is their commission. Every panic selling during a market downturn is an opportunity for them to buy your assets at a discount. At 50, your biggest enemy is your own reactivity. The system has trained you for decades to react to news headlines, but now every such impulse could cost you 5 years of retirement. Let's raise the bar even higher. What about how banks manipulate your mortgage? Many men in their 50s decide to refinance to lower their monthly payment. Look, I'm saving $300 a month, you tell your wife. But look at the amortization schedule. You've just reset the clock and started paying the bank mostly interest again, pushing back the date of full ownership by another 30 years. You've turned your home into a perpetual lease from the bank under the guise of optimization. It's a classic example of how short-term relief leads to long-term slavery. And all this is happening against the backdrop of what I call financial invisibility. The older you get, the less attractive you are to the job market. In the US, ageism in the corporate world isn't a myth. It's the brutal truth. If your position were cut tomorrow, the likelihood of you finding a job with the same salary at age 54 is extremely slim. Your human value in the eyes of corporations declines, while your expenses only increase. Relying on a salary as your sole source of income at this age is like balancing on a tightrope over an abyss, hoping for the wind to blow. So, how do you escape this trap while the clock is still ticking? The first thing you need to do is make a mental shift. You must stop being a hoarder and become a cash flow strategist. In the American system, wealth isn't how many numbers you see on your retirement account screen. Real wealth at age 50 is how much cash flows into your pocket each month without having to sell your assets. If your $1,401K is locked up and you can't access it without penalties or steep taxes, you're not rich. You're just hoarding money for someone else. Your escape plan begins with a rigorous audit of your debt. At 50, any debt is a parasite that sucks away your freedom. If you still have a mortgage, car loans, or heaven forbid, credit card balances, this is your biggest hole. Banks want you to believe in the math of arbitrage when they say, why pay off a mortgage at 3% when the market is offering 7%? But they don't tell you about the risk. A paid-off mortgage is a 100% tax-free return. It's your foundation. As long as you owe the bank, you don't own your life. Your first task is to become completely debt-free, even if that means selling your expensive car or downsizing. That's not defeat. It's a strategic retreat for the decisive push. Next, you need to learn how to use the same tools bankers use, but to your advantage. We've already discussed asset-backed lines of credit. If you have a significant stock portfolio, don't sell them when you need cash. Learn how brokerage lines of credit work. This will allow you to obtain liquidity at a negligible interest rate without incurring tax liabilities. You retain ownership of the assets, they continue to grow, and you use the bank's cheap money. This is a legal cheat code that separates those who are cheated by the system from those who ride it. Another critical step is protecting yourself from medical disasters. Stop relying on standard insurance. Explore the possibilities of medical savings accounts or asset protection trusts. In the US, one unfortunate hospital visit can turn you from wealthy to bankrupt in a week. Your job is to ensure that legally you have nothing, while you control everything through legal structures. This is a level playing field that requires effort, but it ensures that your money isn't wasted on inflated bills from healthcare corporations. And perhaps most importantly, start building a second engine. In modern America, retirement is a fluid concept. Don't expect to simply quit working at 65 and watch TV. That's a recipe for depression and financial ruin. Instead, use your knowledge and experience to build a micro-business or consulting practice. At 50, your experience is your most liquid asset. Transform it into income that's unaffected by corporate layoffs or market fluctuations. If you create a cash flow of $2,000 or $3,000 a month beyond your pension, you'll become virtually invulnerable. You must understand one thing: the system is not interested in your freedom. It needs you as a consumer, as a taxpayer, and as a borrower. 50 years is your last chance to seize control. Stop listening to advice that's suitable for 30-year-olds. Stop trying to beat the market. Your goal is not the highest return, but the highest survival rate. Look around you. Most men your age are following the beaten path straight to the edge, hoping that government welfare or a corporate pension will save them. Don't be part of that majority. Be the one who sees through the matrix. Be the one who takes your chips off the table before the casino closes for inventory. The American dream isn't dead, it's just changed its address. It no longer resides in standard pension plans or the sleek brochures of major banks. It resides in your ability to think critically, act quickly, and take full responsibility for every dollar. You've spent 30 years working for the system. Now it's time to make it work for you. Remember, 50 years is not the end. It's the moment of truth. And the strategy you choose today, the one forced upon you or the one you crafted yourself, will determine whether you become a victim of the greatest financial mistake in history or emerge victorious, preserving your dignity, your money, and your freedom. The choice is yours, and the clock is ticking right now.